COVID is very much still with us, and getting your booster dose remains the best way to boost your immunity to protect yourself and your loved ones against the virus and its variants. Most Victorians had their last dose more than 6 months ago and now have significantly waned immunity. Getting your booster dose is like recharging your phone when the battery's low. Now is a good time to recharge your immunity with a booster dose to prepare for winter.
Vaccination approach.
So obviously we've got fantastic coverage for 2 doses. Almost everyone who's eligible has gotten 2 doses. But we've talked about those boosters, and there's a 3rd dose and a 4th dose that are really now routine for just about everyone. Certainly for older Australians, we want everyone to have taken a 4th dose.
Thank you. They certainly did. Look, it's been an evolving space. Obviously, it's been a long time, and we initially had the support of a legislative and statutory power that was very significant. So, once the pandemic declaration was in place, or the state of emergency was in place, those public health orders were a cornerstone. But in late 2020, we obviously had our second wave, a really challenging time for Victoria, and was part of our very long period of lockdown. We knew that there was multi-layered support. Those public health orders were a cornerstone. But in late 2020, we obviously had our second wave, a really challenging time for Victoria, and was part of our very long period of lockdown. We knew that there was multi-layered support that was required, and so it did go to the COM-B elements, and there were federal and state elements of the enabling environment. So the support, understanding that many of our challenges were with casual workers, with multi-generational families, with the CALD community, and with others who were in a position of socioeconomic disadvantage where they had other priorities and they had other commitments that made it very difficult to support the behaviours that we required of people. And so we did invest a great deal of energy and prioritisation of the behavioural enabling that we could, that went to the communication elements, that went to opportunity, that focused on a really simple and hopefully straightforward message. And it was a complex time because we were moving through various stages of the public health orders, in and out. And the rules changed quite frequently, but I think really central messages about test, trace and isolate, or test and isolate for individuals, and the vaccine message, which was very steady, I think was a success. We had bicultural workers, we had community vaccination champions who were representatives of the communities that they were serving, and we had
a really exciting new role as Director of Health and Biosecurity with CSIRO. That's a really exciting role for me, to be with a really preeminent national research and innovation organisation is super exciting, and to be involved in that work nationally, regionally and with international connections is a role that I'm very excited about and looking forward to.
He was the public face of Victoria's pandemic response. Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton had greater power over the lives of Victorians than anyone who'd held the position before him. But today's press conference was his last.
Good afternoon all. I know I'm here because I've resigned from the Department of Health.
Professor Sutton came to the job in 2019, just months before COVID-19 reached Australia. He admits it was uncharted waters, but says he did the best he could at the time.
There shouldn't be a person in the world who's been part of the public health response who wouldn't reflect on things that they would do differently, things that they regret. I'm absolutely no different in that regard.
He was the first Chief Health Officer to become a household name and to have his face on a cushion. He was constantly by the Premier's side during the pandemic response. It was a relationship that was, at times, strained.
I have a great relationship with the Premier.
The Premier today thanked Professor Sutton on Twitter, saying he helped keep us informed and, above all, safe. Others were slightly more effusive.
He was a
a centre of calm, measured and sensible, reassuring leadership in an environment where there was a lot of chaos and a lot of unknown.
Deeply sorry for those awful hurts and harms that have played out for people that have been as a result of my decision making. I would rather be apologising to them than to 10,000 more families who lost a parent or a grandparent or a sibling. Thank you.
And as the Sutton era
As
ends,
the Chief Health Officer, Brett Sutton, and the Premier became the faces of the pandemic in Victoria. Now the Cho says it's time to go.
On the one hand, it's helped me to grow personally and professionally. On the other hand, it nearly crushed me.
After 4 years in the job, Professor Sutton has resigned to join the CSIRO. His health advice informed the state government's COVID response, including the more than 260-day lockdown. Asked about regrets, Brett said,
Would I do things differently with the knowledge that I have now, with the understanding we have about the virus, about it, everything to do with it? Absolutely, I would. My intent was always to protect the health and wellbeing of Victorians.
The 53-year-old dismissed rumours of a rift with Daniel Andrews.
I have a great relationship with the Premier.
The Premier gave his thanks via social media. As Cho, Brett helped keep us informed and, above all, safe. The Emergency Services Minister adding,
He's become a household name in relation to trusted health advice.
Professor Sutton was a polarising figure during COVID, given he oversaw a raft of restrictions from playground bans to a night curfew.
This is certainly awful advice to have to give to any government, but it is absolutely necessary.
Despite his calm demeanour, he says the social media attacks were troubling.
You can throw in the vitriol and the death threats and the BS that is sometimes spouted out there is quite extraordinary sometimes.
The hashtag Thanks Brett is now trending. Supporters saying the best show we could have had, especially during the toughest of times.
Now, Professor Brett Sutton is resigning as Chief Health Officer to take up a new job at the CSIRO.
But it was not an achievement of mine, it was an achievement of the people of Victoria.
Management of the pandemic is widely viewed globally as one of the best in the world.
But it was not an achievement of mine, it was an achievement of the people of Victoria.
State Council Victorian of the Year.
Hi, I'd like to tell you about a fantastic advance in cervical screening. Since July of 2022, there's been a new technique in taking cervical samples, and it's a self-swab. It uses a soft swab, not dissimilar to these COVID-19 nasal swabs, where a swab is taken from the vagina to pick up HPV or precancerous cells. It's just as sensitive as the traditional screening tests, and it's available for anyone who is eligible for those routine cervical screening tests. Ideally, you would do it at the clinical practice that you normally attend. Many have taken up that option, but there's still a lot of people who don't know about it, hopefully fewer now. If you've got any questions, please ask your practice doctor or practice nurse.
Victoria's Chief Health Officer with the Department of Health. The thing that I would take away from Thorn Harbour Health's 40-year history is that there have always been points in time when it might have seemed insurmountable and the challenges were really substantial, but through all of the efforts collectively, you've gotten through. You've made fantastic achievements in so many areas, and I think you've done that in the face of social, political, financial and other obstacles, and you've done it with a collective effort that's been extraordinary.
Sherbet or Skyhooks?
Skyhooks.
Skyhooks.
Yeah.
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
You know, when I saw the Barbie advertisement, it said, if you love Barbie, you'll love this movie. And if you hate Barbie, you'll love this movie. I guess I'm going to love the movie, but it's because I hate Barbie with a passion. So Oppenheimer.
I'm not with you. All right. What's your guilty pleasure?
I have no guilty pleasures. All pleasures should have no guilt associated with them. No guilt associated with them.
I love that. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Nay.
Oh, very good.
Well, I'm here with Professor Brett Sutton, the Victorian of the Year, who led Victoria through the pandemic. Professor Sutton, congratulations on your award.
Thank you so much.
What does the award mean to you?
Look, it's a wonderful recognition. I'm very keen to say it's about Victorians' efforts through the COVID pandemic. Yes, I was a prominent figure.